All right, welcome back to the deep dive. You guys have given us a really interesting set of sources this week.
Yeah.
It seems like every time we turn around, there's something new happening between the U.S. and China when it comes to trade.
Yeah.
But these articles really highlight the impact on U.S. farmers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a lot of details about the tariffs going back and forth, and I think the mission here, what do you think, is to unpack what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, not just for, the headlines, but like, what does this actually mean for the people who grow our food?
I think that's a great way to put it. What really jumps out from these sources is this tit-for-tat escalation we're seeing.
Oh, for sure.
China just slapped a 15% tariff on a bunch of key U.S. farm products, right?
Yeah.
We're talking chicken, pork, soybeans, beef.
Huge exports for the U.S.
This is a pretty big counterpunch.
Yeah. It's a really strong reaction. And it seems like, the sources are pretty clear, this is a direct response to President Trump's move back on March 4th.
Right.
To double the tariffs on goods coming from China. Up to 20%.
Exactly.
And it's like this chain reaction that you can't help but notice.
You can't miss it, yeah.
One thing that I thought was interesting, though, and, obviously this is a developing situation as we're recording this.
Yeah.
But the Commerce Ministry in China said, okay, anything that's already on a boat, anything already in transit, we're going to give it a pass until April 12th.
Right. It's like a grace period.
Yeah, it's a little detail, but it kind of shows that maybe they are trying to soften the blow a little bit.
They're thinking about those immediate disruptions, I guess.
So, okay, let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why President Trump decided to increase those tariffs on Chinese imports to begin with.
Right.
The sources outline a few different objectives, and it would be great to get your take on these as well. First one, pretty straightforward, boosting revenue for the U.S. Treasury.
Classic tariff argument.
Yeah, bring in some extra cash. And then there's protecting American industries.
Yeah, the Buy American idea.
Buy American, exactly. But then it gets a little more complicated. There's this idea of using tariffs as leverage.
Yeah, like a bargaining chip.
Yeah, to pressure other countries on things like, immigration, even drug trafficking. It's a pretty multifaceted strategy.
Yeah, it is.
So the question is, are these goals actually being met?
Right.
Do the sources give any evidence to support that these tariffs are actually working the way they're supposed to?
Some sources suggest that while the idea of raising revenue through tariffs sounds good on paper, in reality, things are a bit more complex.
Okay.
When you make imported goods more expensive with tariffs, that cost often gets passed on to consumers.
Right.
So people might end up paying more for things, and if they buy less, those revenue gains from tariffs could be wiped out.
So it's almost like a wash.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
And when it comes to protecting American industries, some economists argue that it might help in the short term.
Right.
But in the long run, it could actually make those industries less competitive globally. Well, if they're shielded from competition from abroad, there's less incentive for them to innovate, to become more efficient.
Yeah, if you're not really competing, why bother?
Exactly. You're not pushed to improve as much.
So it's like a kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So, okay, beyond these tariffs that we were just talking about, the U.S. has a few other tariff-related moves that are coming up.
Yeah, there are some other things on the horizon. For example, they're talking about removing the exemptions on the 25% steel tariffs that were put in place in 2018.
So if I'm getting this right, that's basically raising the price of imported steel again.
Effectively, yes. It's like a tax hike on imported steel.
And on top of that, there's this proposed increase in the aluminum levy.
Right, from 10% to 25%.
So all of this together really points to a direction of, relying more heavily on tariffs.
Yeah, it seems to be the trend.
And then things got even more interesting with all those announcements about Canada and Mexico, then delays back and forth. It created a lot of uncertainty, didn't it?
Absolutely. And this unpredictability has a huge impact on businesses. They need a stable trade environment to plan investments, to manage their supply chains. This volatility makes things really difficult for them.
Makes sense. So bigger picture, we've touched on this a little bit, but the economists in these sources are pretty worried that all these tariffs will mean higher prices for consumers in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a key concern.
So, are we talking like noticeable price increases at the grocery store for everyday Americans?
It's hard to give a precise number. It really depends on the product and how much tariffs affect the final price.
Right.
But in general, economic models do suggest that when you have these widespread tariffs, it tends to lead to higher prices overall.
Inflation.
Exactly. So your money doesn't go as far as it used to.
Okay, so let's bring it back to kind of the main focus here, U.S. agriculture.
Mm.
The sources really paint a picture of how vulnerable they are in all of this.
Yeah, they're a major target, unfortunately.
They're a huge part of our economy. They have a lot of political influence, which kind of makes them an easy target for these retaliatory tariffs, doesn't it?
It's a strategic move, I guess. If you want to put pressure on a country, you hit a sector that has a lot of domestic support, like agriculture.
Yeah.
And it's not like this is a new problem for them.
No, U.S. farmers have been through this before, haven't
Yeah, during the trade war with China back in Trump's first term, we saw a big drop in U.S. farm exports to China. Things did pick up after that January 2020 truce.
they? Yeah?
China made a commitment to buy more U.S. farm products. In fact, there was a huge peak in exports in 2022. We're talking $38 billion.
Wow. But that didn't last, right?
Unfortunately not. The numbers went down to $29 billion in 2023 and then dropped even further to $25 million last year. And the real kicker is that USDA report showing a 56% year-over-year drop in exports to China just this January.
56% in 1 month. That's a huge hit. What does that mean for farmers right now?
Well, most likely it translates to less income, difficulty selling their products, and just a ton of uncertainty about the future.
It's tough.
It is.
And the sources remind us that back during those earlier trade battles, the U.S. government had to step in with billions of dollars in aid for farmers who were losing money.
Right, taxpayer money being used to offset those lost exports.
So this isn't just about farmers, it's about the whole U.S. economy.
Absolutely.
We're all connected.
If you look at the bigger picture, it's the same cycle repeating itself. One country takes action, the other retaliates, and then U.S. agriculture ends up bearing a huge part of the burden.
It makes you wonder if this is really sustainable in the long run.
Exactly.
So bringing it back to you, the listener, the big takeaway from all of this is that these trade tensions between the U.S. and China are a continuation of a pattern.
Yeah.
They have real consequences, especially for American farmers. It just goes to show how interconnected the global economy is.
Absolutely.
Decisions made on the international stage can have a huge impact on people here in the U.S.
It makes you think, looking at the history of these actions, how they affect U.S. agriculture, the whole economy, really. What are the long-term strategic options for the U.S.? What about for our relationship with China when it comes to trade? Is there a different way to approach this? Something more sustainable, something that's better for everyone involved? These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as the situation continues to unfold.
Absolutely. Food for thought. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.